Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Friday Night News, where I am always criminally underprepared, especially this week, where I literally didn't read the news all week. I've actually kind of been avoiding it the past 3 weeks. On the topic of the past 3 weeks, you may have noticed that I did not make an episode last week and the week prior. I can't speak. Brain has stopped working. That is because a lot of the news I was reading really hard to read. It in fact is really hard to do the news when you yourself don't want to read the news. Anyway, so we're back. I am less depressed. Obviously, the situations still are pretty dire, and I need not explain, but I most likely will have to anyway. But this week we're just returning to the old formula. Instead of trying to get all the articles read before I start working on them and then get the assets ready, I'm just gonna have my screen up and we're gonna go through it together. All right, we're gonna do this as a team. Anyway, without further ado, we start tonight with attacks against people of Jewish and Muslim faith and descent. There seems to have been attacks against synagogues in Berlin, or a synagogue at the very least. This seemed to be on the 18th, or at the very least, that's when it was published. And we have a very unfortunate story from Chicago of Palestinian Americans being attacked for being Muslim. This is all because of the I want to say the institutional fallout of the situation going on in Israel and Palestine right now. And it gets even more unfortunate when you realize that a lot of people don't want to help stabilize the region. They don't want to help stabilize and end pointless violence. For example, apparently they were going to block aid going to Gaza, and Sanders stopped that from happening. So there's still good people in the world. It's just a lot of institutions right now are really showing their true colors, and it's really heartbreaking to watch. An important statement, though, really quick, is that it is a right-wing tendency to support wanton violence. No matter who you are or what you're doing, it is the right wing that is supporting it. It's the extreme right in Israel that is currently sending ground troops into Palestine and the Gaza Strip. It is the GOP in the US trying to cut aid to Palestine. It is the right wing is the problem, not the institutions that they are infesting. And I think not enough people are saying that right now. I think a lot of people are just oh, well, the institution's breaking, and here's how you can see it. A lot of things are bad right now, but I think that's just because a lot of bad things are being reported. Again, this is a single one person being good, stopping an institution from being a bad thing. So whatever doom and gloom you might be thinking about, like, current events, stop thinking it. You know, things are gonna be okay, probably. On the topic of right wing and Republicans not really knowing what they're doing and really just being ghoulish and trying to get away with, like, horrible behavior, the House still has not, as far as I can tell, has not settled on a speaker. This is probably going to be a reoccurring issue for the next, like, little while. I'm guessing, personally, that this will bleed into November. Maybe get almost to December, but maybe I'm like, well, you know, I wouldn't let something like this be a problem for that long. So I'm like, oh yeah, I wouldn't, dude, it wouldn't have lasted through October, but there's a decent chance it does. I full-heartedly believe that this will bleed into November. It may even see December. As the great Napoleon once said, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And these assholes have been making a mistake for goddamn weeks now. It is hilarious. All this while I am hearing some of the best leftist unity. I don't really have it on hand. I might remember to edit it in later. But there's been a lot of movement recently for like larger figures in the left to, like, actually coordinate with one another. It's no longer so much a social club as it is an actual political movement. So as the right is seeing a bunch of infighting, the left is starting to like actually form a unified, like, hey, okay, we need to get some wins on the board. And I'm a big fan of that. Again, back to the unfortunate topic on everyone's mind right now. Israel's IDF, specifically war crime count, is starting to really tick up as they hit an Orthodox church that non-combatants were using as shelter during a looming invasion. It's getting pretty bad over there. Last week I was reading a Reuters article, and they wouldn't even say the article, instead of saying, "Oh yeah, a journalist caught astray from the direction of IDF," like, instead of saying, "Yeah, no, they shot at our journalist," they were like, "Yeah, so, like, the gunfire or was it gunfire? I can't remember anymore. It seemed to be from the direction of Israel." It's like, okay. So it must be getting pretty bad that Reuters is just, like, flat out saying, "Yeah, they did a war crime." I believe, I could be entirely mistaken, hitting churches, especially churches that non-combatants are using as shelter, is, like, all of the war crimes. Not to mention that it's gone pretty well stated that, like right here. It's gone pretty well stated. I don't have it on me. I think it was a Reuters article, was talking about how Israel was using white phosphorus Like shit is specifically bad right there. Though it's really not. It's really bad. However, I don't think it's going to get much worse, and if it does, Israel will start having to like take some international flack for it because it's starting to get optically really miserable for like the Israeli government. Again, mind you, the problems are not literally the institution of Israel, but rather the infestation of right wing like lunatics who are using Israel as like a playground to do like diet genocide. I mean, at this point, it's more like just war crimes, so not so much genocide. And the IDF is somewhere in the mix. I don't really know. Shit is getting bad, but again, I think optically they really have to calm down on this because like people are starting to notice that Israel is just like a war crime factory. I sort of hope this leads to a like more liberal or more democratic, more, dare I say, what am I saying? More just more socially aware, more populist support, more less authoritarianism. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it's explicitly because the government is like spearheaded right now by a bunch of like right wing, like super conservatives that are super jingoists that like all this is happening. I think we'll actually see an improvement in the next. I want to say we will see in 3 years time. I'm putting it out. 3 years time, the government of Israel will no longer reflect the current very jingoist, very right-wing government and will reflect more the government of that of Germany. Definitely, it will still have extremely problematic aspects. It will still be extreme. It will still have really bad aspects to it, but overall, will be more institutionally liberal instead of institutionally right wing. There will definitely still be right wing actors, but they won't be the ones controlling, you know, the IDF. They'll be able to loosen up on border guards. They'll be able to maybe cut down on the draft, though that's hoping and praying and might not even be advised. I don't know. I think for as bad as things are, we're going to see an improvement. We're going to see improvement. I've meandered for a while, but this has just been on the forefront of my brain for like actual weeks now, and it's been like the reason I've been depressed for actual weeks. So I will happily meander about this. So again, I haven't been reading the news for the last week. Apparently, there's been an election interference case that's been pretty big, and a Cindy Powell and Kenneth Chesbro. I feel like I recognize those names, but I don't necessarily know from where. Have both pleaded guilty to these cases. which seems a bit. I mean, hey, no, if we're finding out that, people are doing like election interference, I am more than happy to get that, but it just seems a bit I guess I haven't been able to read this. Hold on. Well, like, okay, so the problem is I guess I was under the impression that everyone knew that Trump was doing election interference. So I guess when it comes to this topic, I had thought it had already happened, I guess. I guess better late than never. But it just I almost want to say it feels out of place. It feels like this again, I haven't been keeping track of the news the last week. But like look at how much is written here, you know? It's not that like this isn't like good news. It just like it's sort of like, oh yeah, that happened. Yeah. There's not much to talk about here. It's just something that we all knew had happened, got confirmed or legally confirmed. Um, yeah, there's just not much to talk about here. I guess I'm just weirded out that like this is still something we have to talk about, unfortunately. But I'm also at a loss for words, not because of shock, but because there's literally nothing to say. Because again, we all knew this happened. We all watched it happen in real time, you know? Now, okay. Some unfortunate news has been circling about Biden, mostly the fact that the Biden administration has been stationed just outside of Israel, like Biden administration, Biden's administration stationed a carrier group outside of Israel to make sure that no one could really interfere with Israel interfering with Palestine, which is really unfortunate. I can no longer be like Biden is the left's strongest soldier, because they're not. It was all a bit, but at some point I started being like, huh, is this a bit? I mean, they've been pretty based, and things happen. People make decisions that you can disagree with, and that's life. However, it does seem like Biden has, or the Biden administration at the very least, has struck a deal with Venezuela. Um, yeah. I don't know why I read the journalist's name and was like, did I read the wrong country? Um, anyway, so I haven't read this article specifically, but I did read a summary of what has happened. Biden's administration is trading, I believe it was oil, gas, and there was something else I can't remember. In exchange for the Venezuelan government being more democratic, more open to democracy, freeing political prisoners, etc., etc. And honestly, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I like it when we use economy to build the world to be better. I always say that economy and technology both are the vectors under which people are oppressed, and vice versa. We can use economy and technology to uplift people just as fast as we can use it to hurt people. And I personally think that uplifting is really good. I like it when countries get more democratic. I like it when everyone gets a little bit more agency in their life, you know? I'm just like, I'm a big fan of that. Big dub. Okay, so for our last story tonight, we have some drones that were targeting U.S. troops. Now, obviously, this is really bad, but it gets worse. These seem to be from Iranian-backed militias, if I understand what I... They don't have an article, so I had to goddamn watch the news segment about this. If I understand the news segment correctly, potentially Iranian-backed militias have been trying to target U.S. Troops and logistics and equipment. I believe there's been 5 of these attempted drone attacks, and none of them have been successful, but they also haven't... most of them have been shot down. One of them was shot down and hit, like the shrapnel hit a hangar. The Pentagon is worried. Yeah, well, let's just say the Pentagon, I can't remember, is worried that it will be this will be the vector under which the current conflict in Israel and Palestine will grow. The actual front will grow. And yeah, that's pretty not great, especially if, again, these are supposedly Iranian backed. If that's the case, that would be, that would be a whole situation. Now, personally, I don't think anything is going to come of this, because nothing ever comes of anything except when it does. However, this could mean that Israel would have more fronts to fight on, and that would be bad because Israel is, again, it is a Western ally, it is an ally of NATO, it is all these things, and at some point call me crazy, I don't think it should stretch itself thin for reasons that kind of go unstated. I certainly hope this doesn't lead to anything, but I don't know. It might lead to another front opening for Israel. Anyway, I've been really reluctant to do the news for the past 3 weeks, because I didn't want to talk about Israel and Palestine. I really didn't. I don't want to. I didn't want to, and I don't want to. This is not something I enjoy talking about. Multiple times tonight, I kind of looked at my screen and I was saying, oh, what am I doing? Because I don't want to talk about these. In my opinion, recognize people's humanity, stop doing wanton violence, two-state solution. I like it that people are able to exist in a home, and I also like it when that home doesn't get forcefully taken away from them. I'm crazy, I guess, because I just believe in peace and shit. But I think that's all very besides the point, because I'm seeing, we're seeing a very clear separation between the population, the institution, and the ideology that is infecting an institution. And I'm really starting to see the actual separation there, where I'm able to say, where I'm able to make my politics very clear, point and say, hey, I don't hate Israel. I hate those dickweeds way in the corner of Israel who are kind of really being awful people. Everyone else is fine. I don't know. I think talking about this is getting easier because the sort of sections of Israel are starting to become more notable. The Everyone's sort of showing their true colors globally, and so it's much easier to talk about, okay, well, this kind of behavior is bad. Let's just not do that kind of behavior. Anyway, I'm being completely honest when I say I've been really depressed over the last 2 weeks because of this. But honestly, I'm really glad I got to do tonight's episode. I got to do the rant. I got to ramble about a conflict that I feel very passionate about. And I got to I don't know. There's a feeling of catharsis after this episode. I certainly hope things are better over the next week, over the next few months. I certainly hope that when I sit down to do the news next Friday, I'm not sitting there thinking to myself, what am I doing? What am I doing? This sucks. I don't want to report this today. But if that's the world, I'm gonna try my best again to start reporting that. I meant to get a video out. In the last 2 weeks, I didn't do any videos, and I meant to, so I'll be tirelessly working on making other videos because I'm really bad at saying I'm gonna make a video and then not doing it. So maybe be on the lookout for that, but also knowing me, maybe don't. I hope, because the world is getting pretty scary, I hope that everyone is safe this week, next week, and forever. I hope that as shitty as a lot of the news is these past couple weeks, that you've got something you can do to cheer yourself up, because again, this news is pretty shitty. It's been non-stop, just a septic tank straight into your eyes and ears. I hope that everyone is safe. I hope that people who are upset have a vector under which to cheer themselves up. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.